This morning we kick off a new series, Vote 2012, The Challengers. We're going to sit down with the presidential contenders, those in the race, those just taking a hard look. There are going to be a lot of them in 2012, but we're happy to start off with former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty. He also has a new book out called Courage to Stand, An American Story. And Governor, unless you're ready to announce right this second.
Right now, George, right here.
Are you?
No, I'm seriously considering it, but the announcement's going to have to wait a little bit.
It's going to have to wait a little bit. Then let's talk about the events coming out of this weekend, this terrible tragedy in Tucson. Now, we have no evidence that the shooter, Jared Loughner, was motivated by anything but the crazy voices in his own mind. But this has sparked a debate about the political debate in this country. You see Roger Ailes in Fox News saying his people have to tone it down. You've got Paul Krugman on the left talking about a climate of hate. What's your take on all this?
Well, one of the things we cover in the book in terms of crisis management, reaction to crisis, lessons learned in crisis is make sure you got the facts straight and then make good decisions based on good information. As you said, there's no reason to believe at this point that there's any motivating factor tied to a particular politician or particular show or a particular act. It appears to be the rage of a mentally unstable person, and sometimes they do irrational and senseless things. So let's make sure before we make judgments or sweeping condemnations that we got all the facts up. But I think we could all benefit from a more civil and thoughtful discourse in this country.
And your fellow Republican, Sarah Palin, who, and you write about this in the book as well, the craziness about the final selection, John McCain's final selection process, where a lot of the outsiders believed you were a lot closer to getting the vice presidency than you did at that time. But you're very kind to Sarah Palin in the book. You say she has a lot more capacity than people believe, yet she's come under fire over this last weekend. This has become a test for her. You actually told the New York Times that you would not have done the kind of mapping with crosshairs of congressional candidates that she was working against in the last campaign. Is this a test for her?
I think Governor Palin is a remarkable leader. I think she brings a lot to the debate and to the table, both nationally and within the Republican Party as well. As to the New York Times quote, it wouldn't have been my style to put the crosshairs on there. But again, there's no evidence to suggest that that had anything to do with this mentally unstable person's rage and senseless acts.
So you think this changes the political climate at all?
I think it clearly does. I think this in the sense that this is a major story. It's going to be a big part of the debate in the coming days and weeks. And I think it's going to cause everybody to step back and say, we can be passionate and should be passionate. We should be strong. But there's a line there as it relates to, basic civility, decency, respect, and not trying to invoke violence. You
say you haven't made a decision yet, a final decision yet, on whether or not to run for president, but this certainly reads, and I read this on the plane back from Tucson yesterday, like the book of a man who certainly wants to run for president, and fascinating details about your life growing up in Minnesota and your family, and the kind of challenges you faced as governor. You write that the biggest challenge for America right now, if I get this right, is to learn how to say no.
Yeah, politicians have been rewarded in recent history in this country for saying yes to just about everything. We're in big trouble. This Courage to Stand book is about standing up to those challenges, first identifying them accurately, truthfully, boldly, not just scaring people, but showing them that there is a way out. But George, this isn't a matter now just about right versus left. It's a matter of 8th grade math. You can look at the charts on spending commitments and reasonable projections on revenue. They don't line up. We got a huge gap. And if we don't start addressing this immediately, boldly, truthfully, and courageously, the country is going to have a very, very rough ride.
You also say you want more tax cuts.
Yeah, the United States of America is involved in a hyper-competitive global competition. And the cost for doing business, starting jobs, growing jobs in this country, which is the key to the quality of life for most of our fellow citizens, is too high.
But won't tax cuts increase the deficit?
Well, I think in terms of tax reduction, tax reform, I think we should be talking about lowering rates and also making this system more simple. I'd like, for example, to require every member of Congress to do their own taxes. And
do their own taxes?
Do their own taxes. No help of an accountant or a lawyer or a tax specialist. And if they can't do it, we'll give them a certification that they can go get some help. But I'd like every one of those individuals to have to do their own taxes every year and live with the mindless burdens we visit on the American people. George, I filled out a W-9 the other day. It was a half-page long, 4 pages of instructions.
I have never heard that before. My guess it's going to be a pretty popular proposal. Before we go, the book is studded with biblical passages. If there were one passage you wanted the country to meditate on right now, what would it be?
Well, for me, an important passage is Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understandings, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. And this is a country founded under God. I believe that our faith in God is an important part of who we are, what we believe. It certainly informs a lot of my thinking, but this is a time, particularly in this moment of crisis, where we need to pray and lean into our faith to try to get understanding in this terrible, senseless tragedy in Arizona, and for those people who are suffered from it.
Governor Pawlenty, thanks for your time this morning. Come back when you're ready to announce.
Thanks, George.
Take care. You can check out highlights from Tim Pawlenty's book, Courage to Stand, at abcnews.com/GMA.